Welcome to today's video, Navigating Challenges in Collaborative Design and Change Management. This is part 1, Change Management. Today we'll be learning about how we conceptualize change, going through some key models, but we'll be focusing mainly on Kotter's change management model. We'll look at the 4 core principles that underpin it, and we'll go through the 8 steps. By the end of today's video, you should hopefully be able to conceptualize change using some key models. You'll understand Kotter's change management model with the 4 core principles and the 8 steps, and apply that information to real-world change. Change management is the structured process of guiding individuals, teams, and organizations from a current state to a desired future state. And often the key elements are people, processes, and tools and resources. The purpose is to make sure that changes are effectively adopted, that they're sustained over time, that they minimize disruption, and they ultimately help people adjust to new ways of working. We can think about change in a lot of different ways, and today we'll be looking at different key models. Each offer unique perspectives and approaches to navigating transitions. While there are many models and frameworks available, these are the 4 that are the most commonly recognized and applied. They are Kotter's 8-step model, Kurt Lewin's force field analysis, Bridges' transition model, and McKinsey's 7S framework. We'll be going through Kotter's 8-step model in more detail, so we'll start with the force field analysis. Kurt Lewin's change model is a very simple and widely used framework. It has 3 key stages. The first is unfreeze. This is where we prepare for change. We raise the awareness for the need for transformation. We need to break away from what we're currently doing and get ready for new ways of doing things. The next stage is the change or the transition itself. So this is where we put new systems, processes, behaviors into place, and then we freeze again. So this is when we have to stabilize the change that has been implemented. We want to embed it. We want to make sure that it sticks so that it becomes the new norm. Based on this model, we have the force field analysis, and this can be very helpful when we're considering change. So as you can see in the figure, that we have central the current state or the plan that we are putting in place. You can see that we have forces for and forces against. Over on the right-hand side, we have the direction towards our goal. This model helps us to see that change can only succeed when the driving forces outweigh the resisting forces. This is often used as a decision-making tool used to identify and analyze the factors that influence a change process. It involves 3 main steps, and that is to identify the driving forces, so this is what pushes for change, identify the resisting forces, so the things that are opposing change, and then we analyze and reduce resistance and strengthen the driving forces. So we want to make sure that the things that are working for us, we boost those, and the things that are working against us, we want to make sure that we can try and reduce those. Next, we have Bridges' transition model, which is quite a nice model because it focuses on the human side of change. It emphasizes that understanding and addressing the emotional transitions that people go through is really key to managing a successful change. Bridges' model has 3 key stages that it suggests we go through, and the first is the ending. The first stage involves recognizing that something is coming to an end, and we might feel a bit sad about that. We might be a bit fearful about that. We then enter the neutral zone where people might be in a sense of limbo between the old and the new. It's a period of transition, and a lot of feelings of uncertainty and confusion often come up in this stage. But it can also be a really creative time where people are excited to explore new ideas. The final stage is the new beginning, and this is where we embrace the change. We start to feel a sense of renewal and commitment to a new way of doing things. This is where it starts to become integrated into the everyday. It begins to be the new normal. And we can see this demonstrated in this figure here. So you can see in the ending, there's that anxiety, that reservation, but then in the neutral zone, there's opportunity for creativity, exploration. There might be a mixed bag of feelings, but then we start to notice that productivity might increase when we get to that new beginning. We have a sense of achievement, contentment. We might have a sense of relief and stabilization. The McKinsey 7S framework is a little more comprehensive and complex. It has 7 interdependent elements that must be aligned for an organization to achieve its goals. Those elements are strategy, structure, systems, shared values, style, staff, and skills. So while it's very helpful in how comprehensive it is, it can be really challenging to put it into place. So sometimes it can be tricky to implement for organizations. So while those models are really helpful, today we're going to be focusing on Kotter's model, which is a little more straightforward and hopefully applicable to the work that you will be doing. Kotter's model for change management is an 8-step process for leading organizational change. It was developed by Harvard Business School professor Dr. John Kotter. It's based on 4 core change principles, and it's widely used in a number of industries and sectors to help organizations navigate really complex transformations. The 4 core change principles are have to and want to, management and leadership, head and heart, and select few and diverse many. The first have to and want to looks at how people will be willing to take on important tasks beyond what their regular duties might entail when they're given the opportunity, when they are in an environment that encourages collaboration, innovation, and a shared sense of purpose. So your team will contribute if they feel valued and empowered. Management and leadership are both vital to change management. So this principle is about acknowledging that we need leadership in the level of vision and motivating action, but we also need to have some guidance with essential management tasks along the way. Head and heart refers to the fact that change needs both data and logic and emotion. So we can have all the stats to back up why the change should occur, but unless we have that emotional connection to motivate others, then change is less likely to be successful. Select few and diverse many recognizes that yes, sometimes we will need experts to advise on change, but a lot of the time we need many people to be involved to drive change effectively. Here we have Kotter's 8-step model. We can see that we have 8 steps and 3 different stages. So the first is creating a climate for change. We need to create a sense of urgency, build a guiding coalition, and form a strategic vision. Next, we need to enable and engage the organization. So we need to enlist a volunteer army, we need to try and remove barriers, and we need to generate small-term wins. We need to get a little bit of momentum happening. Then finally, for 7 and 8, we have implement and sustain. So we need to sustain that acceleration that we've generated and make sure that we institute that change. Urgency thrives on seizing windows of opportunities before they close. So we need to create a sense of urgency. And how do we do that? Well, firstly, we identify the potential. We need to look at the potential threats or opportunities that may impact the organization's future. We need to generate discussion. We need to have really open discussions with a variety of stakeholders to make sure that we're looking at diverse perspectives and build a shared understanding of what is actually needed. We need to convince others. We need to build a compelling case for change. We need to really clearly articulate what are the benefits of the proposed change. The Guiding Coalition unites members across all levels of the organisation to develop new ideas and drive change. We build a guiding coalition by assembling a team, a group of people with knowledge, skills, and influence to lead the change. We want to make sure that they have diverse skills and expertise. We also want to make sure that they have varied roles across the organisation, and we want different levels of the hierarchy. They also have to be united by a shared commitment to change. Next, we need strategic vision. So strategic vision defines how the future will be different from the past, and strategic initiatives are the concrete steps that bring that vision to life. First, we define the vision. We need to come up with a compelling vision for the future that guides and drives the change by clearly articulating what we want to happen. Next, we strategize. We come up with concrete steps to help us achieve that vision. And we also need to make sure that that vision is incredibly clear so it is easy to communicate. And we need to make sure that all stakeholders can understand what's involved. Next, we mobilize. To drive large-scale change, we need to empower people with the choice to engage. So we need to rally. To enlist a volunteer army, we need to engage people. It requires widespread support. So we need to communicate the vision as widely and frequently as possible. We need to make sure that we address people's concerns openly and effectively. We also need to lead by example. So we need to endorse the vision by leading and demonstrating the desired behaviours, practices that we want other people to engage in. A key step in mobilising action is removing barriers. So innovation thrives not only by generating new ideas, but removing the barriers that prevent ideas from being realised. So we need to remove obstacles. We need to identify and remove the things that get in the way of change. And this might be where the force field analysis comes into play. It might identify systems or structured or outdated norms that undermine the vision. We need to look at resources. So what are the gaps where resources could be provided to support our change strategies? And we also need to encourage risk-taking. So we need to remove psychological barriers by creating a safe environment to explore and experiment with new ideas. If we aim for short-term wins, we then reinforce change is working. So a win can be any kind of achievement, no matter the size, that helps us move towards our goal. Visible improvements. We need to see that the change is working. It helps build confidence and it maintains momentum. Quick wins. We really need to create the opportunities for quick wins. So we need to set it up so that we can have short-term goals that feel manageable, that might be high impact in the short term, that people can have a sense of reward and reinforcement after that win. And then we need to recognize and reward. So let's positively reinforce the vision for change by recognizing and rewarding people who are involved in those improvements. Those short-term wins build momentum, so don't slow down. Let's sustain the acceleration. So we want to build upon those short-term wins for momentum and credibility. We want to be able to develop the workforce, grow a strategic workforce by hiring, promoting, and investing in the development of employees, and reinvigorate. So don't let this get stale. Reinvigorate the process with new projects or change agents. Finally, after all this work, we want to make sure that these new practices are sustained, and we want to make sure that they become part of a lasting organisational culture. So this requires skillful management and leadership. To institute change, we need to connect the dots. We need to really clearly spell it out for people between the vision, the initiatives, and the success. We need leadership development. So to prepare future leaders to carry forward this change, we need to make sure that they are provided with targeted training and mentorship opportunities. And organizational culture. We want to make sure that these changes are anchored in organizational culture. We need to embed them in everyday practices, systems, and values. But remember, people are central to change. We need to address the psychosocial stresses that occur during change. They may include uncertainty and fear, workload stress, unrealistic expectations, negative behaviours, and poor communication. Here are just some of the ways that we can address those stresses. Firstly, most importantly, involve people in the change process from the beginning. Be open and transparent. Have a really clear vision. Build phases into plans. Make sure that you encourage open conversations and over-communicate. And if there is any bullying, harassment, it needs to be addressed immediately and through policies. Here are some ways we can help individuals cope with change. Firstly, we need to identify situational needs and address them. We need to increase each individual's agency, cultural capital, and self-efficacy. We need to provide the resources like quality training and development. We need to communicate well and often. And we need to make sure that we lead, not just manage. And ultimately, this is built on trust. Here are just a few key considerations. So remember, communication is key. This is a model that needs to be adapted to fit your organization's specific context. Remember, change is a long-term process. Leadership commitment is crucial. And finally, anticipate and plan for potential resistance to change. Here are some additional resources for Kotter's change management model. They will be included in your resources. Let's review our outcomes. So hopefully by now you should have an understanding of different ways we conceptualize change. You'll understand the 4 core principles that underpin Kotter's change management model. You'll be able to explain the 8 steps and their role in successful change implementation, and hopefully apply these to real-world change. Time to reflect on your learning. So we have included a reflection activity along with a summary of all the things that we've talked about in the video. It'll ask you to think about how you might apply Kotter's change management model in the work that you do. We've come to the end of this video of part 1, Navigating Challenges in Collaborative Design and Change Management. Look forward to seeing you for part 2.